Have you ever felt too needy in love? Too distant when someone gets closer, caught in a cycle of push and pull that you can't seem to break? That's not random. It's what psychologists call insecure attachments. Attachment isn't just about romance. It's the nervous system blueprint shaped in your earliest caregiving environment. It begins with how your caregivers responded to your needs for comfort and safety. Now, those early interactions taught your nervous system how safe it is to rely on others and how safe it is to simply be yourself. And here's the key. Those patterns don't disappear when you grow up. Whether secure or insecure, the blueprint continues into adulthood. It shows up in every close relationship, shaping how you connect, how you protect, and what intimacy feels like to you today. Now, this can show up in different ways. Now, maybe one of these feels familiar. You're the one staring at your phone, waiting for the reply that never comes, and your chest tightens with fear. Or maybe you're on the other side of that moment. Your phone lights up with a string of messages, and instead of feeling cared for, you feel smothered. So you back away. Or maybe you live in the tug-of-war between both. You send the messages, then panic at your own vulnerability, pulling back just as hard as you reached out. In this video, I'm going to walk through the 3 insecure styles and how they show up in adulthood, and why none of them mean you're broken. They simply mean your system learned to protect you, and protection can be rewired. Attachment theory began in the 1950s and 1960s with psychiatrist and psychoanalyst John Bowlby, who showed that infants form strong emotional bonds with caregivers for survival. In the 1970s, psychologist Mary Ainsworth expanded that research through her famous strange situation study. And in this experiment, babies were observed during brief separations and reunions with their mothers. And the way they responded, seeking comfort, avoiding contact, or showing distress, revealed different attachment patterns. And from this, Ainsworth identified 3 categories: secure, anxious-ambivalent, and anxious-avoidant. Later, as attachment theory expanded into adult relationships, those were simplified into terms most of us use today: anxious and avoidant, or more commonly on social media, anxious-preoccupied and dismissive-avoidant. Now, still, Ainsworth noticed that a small group of children didn't fit neatly into any of these categories, and she described them as unclassifiable, a puzzle that later researchers would solve. And in the 1980s, Mary Main and Judith Solomon studied those unclassifiable cases further and formally named this 4th style disorganized attachment in children. Now, that term is still used today. In the late 1980s, however, psychologists Cindy Zahn and Philip Shaver began applying attachment theory to adult romantic relationships, showing that attachment patterns don't end in childhood. They shape intimacy in adulthood as well. And in 1991, Kim Bartholomew and Leonard Horowitz introduced what became known as the 4-category model of adult attachment. They mapped attachment onto 2 dimensions: how we see ourselves and how we see others. Now, crossing those dimensions created 4 styles: secure, preoccupied, which is anxious-preoccupied, and dismissive, which is dismissive-avoidant, and lastly, fearful, which is fearful-avoidant. And the fearful category parallels the disorganized attachment in children, but looks different in adults, marked by craving closeness while simultaneously fearing it. Now, in the 1990s, Mary Main and Ruth Goldwyn introduced the concept of earned secure attachment through the adult attachment interview. And they found that some adults with difficult or insecure childhoods nonetheless showed secure patterns as adults, not because of a perfect past, but because of later healing and healthier relationships. That discovery was proof that change is possible. So, when we talk about insecure attachment today, we're talking about adult patterns of relating. They have deep roots in early survival strategies, but they can be changed. Now, anxious-preoccupied attachment is often described as living with a constant fear of abandonment. And inside, it feels like this: drumbeat of questions. Am I enough? Did I do something wrong? Are they about to leave me? For someone with this style, love feels fragile, and even small signs of distance can set off a panic. And that fear turns into behaviors that try to keep closeness alive. You might find yourself clinging, overanalyzing every word, gesture, or silence, whether it comes in a text, a conversation, or even body language. And needing constant reassurance in those moments, connection feels like survival. And your nervous system fights to hold on to it at any cost. From the partner's side, this can create exhaustion and confusion. They may feel like no amount of reassurance is ever going to be enough. And they can begin to misinterpret your need for closeness as neediness or dependence. And what matters to remember is that these behaviors are not flaws. They are survival codes your body wired early. When comfort felt uncertain, your system learned to fight for connection. Now, here are 3 real-life examples that may feel familiar. You might connect with one of them more than the others, but each shows how anxious preoccupied attachment can come alive in daily life. Now, number 1, you're sitting with your partner, telling them something important, and halfway through, their eyes drift to their phone. For many people, it's just a passing distraction. But for the anxious preoccupied nervous system, that moment feels like abandonment. Your chest tightens, your voice speeds up, or you suddenly change the subject. Anything to pull them back. Because silence or distance can feel unbearable. And number 2, you reach out for a hug, and your partner pulls away without meaning to. Maybe they're distracted, maybe they're tired. And for many people, that's no big deal. But for the anxious preoccupied nervous system, it feels like rejection, as your body floods with alarm. And you start replaying the whole day, wondering if you upset them. And number 3, you're at dinner together, and they go quiet, eating in silence. And for some, that's just comfort in being together. And for the anxious preoccupied nervous system, that quiet feels like distance. And you fill the space with questions, chatter, or stories, desperate to reestablish connection. Because if they go silent, it feels like you're being shut out. This constant fear comes from early experiences where love and safety felt inconsistent. Now, maybe a caregiver was warm sometimes and distracted other times, or maybe affection came with conditions. You were loved when you behaved, but ignored when you didn't. And over time, your nervous system learned, if I don't fight for closeness, I'll be left behind. That's why, even as an adult, the smallest gap in your attention can feel catastrophic. The goal is not to silence your need for closeness. The need is part of your strength. The growth comes from building trust. That connection can survive even without constant checking. A small step might be noticing the urge to send that extra text, and instead practicing a calming breath or writing the thought down first. And over time, these small experiments teach your nervous system that closeness does not disappear the moment you pause, and that love can stay steady without constant pursuit. Now, living with anxious preoccupied attachment means your system learned to survive by holding tightly to closeness that can make relationships feel intense, but it also reflects the depth of passion and loyalty you bring to the people you love. And later, we're going to look at how these patterns can be gently rewired towards security. But first, let's turn to the opposite end of the spectrum, the dismissive-avoidant attachment. And dismissive-avoidant attachment is organized around the belief that safety comes through distance. Inside, it feels like I can only rely on myself. If I get too close, I'll lose control. Independence is not just a preference. It is protection. And for someone with this style, vulnerability often feels threatening. When a partner leans in emotionally instead of warmth, there can be a surge of pressure. Thoughts come fast. They need too much. I can't give this. If I let them in, I'll be trapped or hurt. Pulling away brings relief, even though it leaves the partner feeling shut out. And you may find yourself delaying replies to texts, avoiding deep conversations, or staying busy with work and tasks instead of sitting in closeness. When emotions run high, the default response is to go silent. That silence is not meant as punishment. It is the nervous system's way of turning down the heat. Many dismissive-avoidant people describe feeling calmest when there is space and predictability, not intensity or emotional demand. And from the outside, this can look cold or uncaring. Partners may say, "You never let me in," or "I feel like I don't matter to you." In reality, distance is a survival strategy, not a lack of love. People with this style often care deeply. The care is expressed through actions, through providing, through showing up in practical ways. And what feels safe is doing for others, not exposing inner feelings. Imagine you come home after a long day at work and your partner says, "We need to talk about what happened earlier." And for them, that request is about connection and repair. But for the dismissive-avoidant nervous system, it feels like a trap. Your chest tightens, your stomach churns, and the urge rises to get out of the conversation. Maybe you say, "Not now, I'm tired," or you leave the room. From your perspective, you are protecting yourself from overwhelm. And from your partner's perspective, it feels like rejection. Some experiences are real. One is about survival. The other is about closeness. And in childhood, many with this attachment grew up in environments where independence was praised and needs were minimized. Maybe caregivers valued achievement more than emotional expression. Maybe showing sadness brought criticism or shame. Maybe love was available only when you were self-sufficient. And over time, the nervous system learned closeness equals risk, distance equals safety. By adulthood, that learning feels automatic. Your jaw tightens when someone asks for emotional closeness. You feel relief when plans are canceled. You catch yourself saying, "It's not a big deal, just move on." When conflict arises, these are deactivating strategies, the mind's way of keeping connection at a manageable distance. The goal is not to erase independence. Independence is a strength. The growth comes from pairing independence with reliability. Small steps like, "I can't talk right now, but let's sit down tomorrow at 10. Create safety for both sides. You keep your space and your partner feels included. Over time, that balance teaches the nervous system that closeness does not have to mean loss of control. If dismissive-avoidant is one pole of the spectrum, seeking safety through distance, then the fearful-avoidant style lives in the middle of the storm, craving closeness and fearing it at the same time. A fearful-avoidant attachment lives in contradiction. Inside it feels like, "I want closeness, but I don't trust it. I want to be loved, but I'm afraid I'll get hurt." The nervous system carries both the anxious alarm and the avoidant brake, switching rapidly between them. You may reach out for connection one moment and then retreat the next. There can be a burst of openness, sharing feelings, reaching for a hug, initiating plans, followed by a wave of panic that makes you withdraw, cancel, or go silent. It is not inconsistency on purpose. It is the nervous system trying to keep you safe in two opposing ways. To partners, this can feel unpredictable. They may say, I never know which version of you I'm going to get. The cycle creates confusion. Moments of warmth and intimacy are followed by sudden distance or shutdown. Trust becomes fragile, not because you don't care, but because promises made in one state are often broken in another. Picture this. After a hard day, you finally let your guard down with your partner. You open up, share what you're feeling, and lean into their support. And in that moment, it feels good, safe, connected. But later, almost without noticing, when it shifted, you find yourself pulling back, going quiet, or even snapping. The closeness that felt safe just a short time ago now feels risky and distant, and it takes over. Then, when the loneliness returns, you reach out again. The push and pull is not a game. It is the nervous system flipping between fear of abandonment and fear of being hurt. Fearful-avoidant detachment often develops in the context of chaos. A parent may have been loving at times and frightening, rejecting, or absent at others. The child never knew what to expect. Comfort one moment, fear the next. In that chaos, the nervous system could not settle on a single strategy, so it wired both. Fight for closeness and retreat from danger. That split carries forward into adulthood, where many people with this style describe living in cycles of relational chaos. longing for love, fearing it, and often finding themselves in unstable or turbulent dynamics that echo the unpredictability of childhood. Healing often begins after the fact. You may notice I pulled right away after things felt close and simply acknowledge it without judgment. And over time, that recognition helps bring the cycle into awareness. Another part of the work is noticing how you may lean toward chaos without meaning to. Choosing relationships or situations that echo the instability of childhood, naming that pattern matters. Because once you see it, you can begin choosing differently. Growth comes from practicing trust in the reality of safe moments. Now, allowing yourself to believe that a kind gesture, a hug, or a moment of care is genuine. With repetition, the nervous system slowly learns that not all connection is fake or unsafe, and that stability can exist without chaos. A fearful avoidant attachment shows us the rawest form of the struggle, craving love and fearing it at the same time. But whether it shows up as anxious pursuit, dismissive distance, or fearful chaos, all of these patterns share the same root. They are survival strategies, not character flaws. And that's why understanding insecure attachment matters. It's the key to seeing your patterns with compassion and realizing they can change. Now, insecure attachment styles are survival strategies, ways your nervous system adopted to protect you in environments that felt uncertain, inconsistent, or chaotic. And what may look like overthinking, shutting down, or pulling back is protection at work. And here's the key. Protection can be rewired. With intentional effort and safe relationships, the nervous system can learn new patterns of safety. This is what researchers call earned secure attachment, a way of living where connection is steady, trust is possible, and love is real. Insecure attachment isn't who you are. It's a survival map your nervous system drew early in life. And maps can be redrawn. We've looked at anxious-preoccupied, dismissive-avoidant, and fearful-avoidant. And you've seen how each one is not a flaw, but a strategy that can be rewired. Now, in future videos, I'm going to take you deeper into each style and show you the tools that help shift toward earned secure attachment. So if this spoke to you, subscribe and stay with me here. And if you're ready to go further, join me in the Attachment Trauma Lab community. You'll find the link in the description. That's where we do this work together, step by step.